Welcome back to class, and it's great to see you again. I hope you are learning so fast. And today we'll be looking at Python data types. And as you all know, I'm still your main man, Onoyemi Hakim. And we have just a little stuff to do today based on data types. And I believe you're going to enjoy the class. Yeah, when we talk about data types, we are talking about the types of data that we will be using to carry out our activities when writing our Python programming language codes and some other informations that we be following. So among the data types that we have the int, we have the float, we have the complex number. So we have, let me make that doc string int. We have float, we have a complex number. So how can we identify the int? How can we identify the float? How can we identify the complex numbers? First, let's look at the int. For int, we have numbers, we have the general numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and co. For example, let me assign the variable to a value 1 to a variable. Let's say y equals to 1. So print y, we're going to have 1. But this is same 1. How can we know the type of data it is? Then that is when we're going to make use of the type built-in built-in element of Python. So then we are going to check by saying what print type, because we want to check the type of integer or data that we have, type of data. So print type y, then you close the bracket, press enter. You can see it says class is int. So the class of that number in y is int. Now any number that you put in, be it 200, 500, 1000, as long as it doesn't have point zero or other things in it, then it becomes an integer. It is an integer. So that is how to identify your integer. Then now let's look at floats. How can you identify your float? Well, for example, when you have s is equals to 2.1, print s. We have 2.1. Can you see? Now how can we know that it is a float or it is an int? Automatically, what we need to do is what print type s and you close. Now this indicate that it is a float. If your number has decimal point, be it 2.0, 2.1, 2.3, 2.5, 2.100, 2.00000, 2.10, you understand? All these values, they are all regarded as points, as a float. They are regarded as float. So and your float can also have e in it. Like you can have 2.1 E10. That is showing you the number of power that the numbers is being raised to. If your number has exceeded the exact number that should be shown, it will give it an exponential, and that can also be confirmed using your type to determine what kind of data it is. So also when you can also determine the third one, which is the complex number. How can you know this is a complex number? For example, do is equals to, oh, don't let me use do, is a built-in uh, variable. So let's say ld equals to 1j, print ld, and say it's giving us 1j, then print type 1j and close. We should have complex. Can you see? So it's giving us complex because it is a complex number. And you can also have this int concatenated. Like when we say concatenated, that is joined together or added together. So if we are using an operator, depends on how you use your values, that will determine if your values will be concatenated or added together. So for example, okay, before we get there, let's quickly look at how to convert an int to a float to an int, how to convert a string to a float, a to a float, and a float to a string, or how to convert int to string and string to int. For example, we have, okay, let's convert our int to different ways we can do it. For example, let's convert, let's say z is equals to int 1. This one should give us our z will be 1. Then let's say y is equals to int, this is a float 2.0. So let me, so that you won't look like, is this only 2.6? This will give us our y will be 4 as an output. Then let's say x is equals to int, and we are going to put that int in a string, then close it. This will give us that x will be 3. That's what is happening earlier in that error, because we put it in string and it's giving us 1 as the output. So then we can now print the 3, print x, y, z, and that is what we are expecting. We expect to have our z to be 1, our y to be 4, and our x to be 3. Remember, our y is 4.6, but because we've added int to it, it automatically round down everything after that number. Any number after that decimal point will be round down to to uh int, which makes it to display 4. The same thing happens to the x. The number we converted to string is I mean, the number we converted to int is a string, because the 3 is wrapped inside a quote. So in that case, adding that int in front of it will convert the value to an integer. Now let's see how we can convert it to a float also. So in that case, let's say x is equals to, we are assigning another variable, equals to float 1. This will give us, I decided to comment this, x will give us 1.0. So I'm adding comment so that we can see the output of the comment before we output it. Then y equals to float 2.8. This will give us 2.8, which is y will be 2.8. Then z is equals to float string 4. This will give us z will be 4.0, and let's say w is equals to float 4.5, float into string 4.5, and this will give us that w will be 4.5. All right, let's print x, y, z, w. Oh, I didn't add the brackets. Okay, enter. And you see we have 1.0, 2.8, 4.0, 4.5, which means our values are already converted to a float. So also we can still change our numbers to a string, to whatever string we want to display. For example, let me use another letters. I don't want to use X, Y, Z, W again. I've been using it since morning. So let me use two letters. That is IM equals to string X1. Then we close it. This will give us a string. S will be S1 in a quote, and then we have okay. I mean KO equals, because if I use okay, I don't know if it's going to call something in there. So KO equals, let's give it a number to, this is what I expect the other values to give, or the other value to give us when we were trying to stringify the y. So we have KO will be 2 in quotes, while we have the third one, let's say ZO equals string 3.9, and this one will give us ZO will be 3.9 in string. Now when you look at this, each of these numbers, 2, 3.9, they are numbers. 2 is an integer, 3.9 is a float, and S1 is a complex number. And in that case, let's print IM, KO, ZO, and we have our answer as X1 to 3.9. This is a string. It should bring out the code, but I don't know why it's not bringing out the code. But this automatically converts them to string. And that is what we are going to talk about today. In our next class, we'll be looking at string. And while looking at string, we'll look at how to slice a string. We'll look at several aspects of a string, how to concatenate a string, how to, okay, let me prepare your mind towards that. Just expect as much as possible examples under strings, because that is where a lot of operations will be coming up. You are going to experience a lot of slicing when it comes to string, and that alone will project you to understand better by the time we start slicing in every aspect of the list, dictionary, and the sets. So, once again, thank you for attending this class. I wish you the best of luck. Always reach out to me on Twitter when you fall into error at TinyTrue, or just search for Ademola Code Mr. Indelible. Then you will surely get me there. Thank you.